Before we begin our next story, I want you to take a look at an abstract painting from the late 1950s. This untitled work is by the African-American painter, teacher, and scholar Norman Lewis. A contemporary of Jackson Pollock and Willem de Kooning, Lewis received similar critical acclaim during his life, but not similar commercial success. Before his death in 1979, Lewis predicted it would be decades before his art would receive its due. It appears he was right. The first major museum retrospective of his work is currently on exhibit in Philadelphia. And that painting you just saw sold at auction in December of 2015 for close to $1 million. Now you're probably wondering what this has to do with St. Louis. Well, a St. Louis artist and former gallery owner you're about to meet has spent his career trying to level the playing field and create more opportunities for artists of color.
Kababi has some different art.
Few people know the world of African American art better than Robert Powell.
Burton does wood burning, you know.
Oh, William Burton.
William
of course
Burton.
I should have recognized.
Yeah, that's William Burton, yeah.
From works of St. Louis artists like William Burton and Kababi Bayak to those of Dean Mitchell, whose paintings can be found in museum and corporate art collections, Robert Powell's personal collection provides lessons in the depth, breadth, and gifts of African American artists, and with good reason. Powell is the founder of Portfolio Gallery and Education Center. For decades, its mission was to foster awareness of African American artists. For that, Powell has been honored by the state of Missouri, the Arts and Education Council, and other organizations. For 26 years, Portfolio was housed in this building on Del Mar in Grand Center until Powell sold it in 2015. Now, as Portfolio Incorporated, Powell hopes to fulfill a dream he's had for a long time.
In the 26 years, I've met 200 plus artists from around the country, Black, white, Hispanic, Asian. I'd like to create a destination art exhibit where the proceeds of the sale of the product, the art, the sculpture, paintings, glass blowing, all those mediums will be put into a pot for small, not-for-profit arts organizations.
Powell would also like to see African American art subsidized through the Metropolitan Zoological Park and Museum District. Currently, there are 5 institutions under the Zoo Museum District umbrella: the St. Louis Art Museum, the St. Louis Zoo, the Science Center, the Missouri Botanical Garden, and Missouri History Museum. These 5 sub-districts between them receive some $70 million in tax revenue. Now, there is a measure to create another sub-district, but it's been sitting in the Missouri legislature for more than a decade. And even if it wins final approval, voters in St. Louis City and County would have to approve a property tax increase to fund that new sub-district.
Opportunity. Do we deserve an opportunity to grow, to take it to the people, to be able to point and say, you know, that's the African American sub-district. They bring in these major exhibits, the dancers, the theater, all of those same things on a daily basis, you know. So that's what it's going to take, a groundswell of the people who think that that's important and who will champion it, who will help organize it so that it becomes something that's important. A 4-cent increase on property taxes will generate about $5 million a year. There's no black organization with $5 million every year. Then we can hire development officers and have people who go out and champion our efforts, pay insurance, marketing, advertising, you know.
See that sculpture on the far left? It was created by Powell and is titled "Lest We Forget From Whence We Came." Powell was teaching industrial arts, including wood and metal fabrication, when he turned to sculpting in the early 1970s. His inspiration was his artist brother, Lonnie.
There's a piece right around the corner on my wall here that my brother did 25, 30 years ago. But it's speaking to the same lack of inclusion, support, opportunity, and that's all Ferguson was. Same thing Detroit was, Watts was, all the way back through the history of America.
The history of the late South African singer and anti-apartheid activist Miriam Makeba is the focus of Robert Powell's latest project. He's executive producer of Zenzi, the musical. It's scheduled to premiere in the fall of 2016 at the Two Hill Performing Arts Center.
Mama Africa, and tells of her beginnings and her plight there in South Africa, which you know is very similar to America's history. It's the same kind of being deprived because of who you are, being isolated. Her speech to the UN, the first woman to do that, and certainly her role in tearing down the apartheid. You know, she's like Rosa Parks here.
And you can expect that kind of activist spirit to define the next chapter of Robert Powell's career.
I don't have all the answers. If it's a good idea, I want to help.